I think like a few hours, not hours, so don't worry. I'm going to talk for about half an hour, then George is going to take over, then we have Sebastian to, so the three of us will probably sort of make this session. You can ask questions at sort of any time. I just want to show a lot of things quickly. I think I should start by saying that you're very lucky, because we're in a very important transition. It's a thing like, to me, it's like fire or book or the wheel. And so we're in this moment where we're actually trying to individuate all objects to sort of have an environment come alive. So in terms of philosophy, we as humans have been living with the idea of subject-object relationships and dichotomies for all our lives. And all of a sudden, we're sort of building something in between. This was always the relation. The relation is now sort of coming alive. So what will we? So to me, this we have like two main ways of basically looking at where we are. This is kind of a reactive position. There's nothing negative to the word reactive, but that's sort of where we are. And a kind of proactive position. And I think you should, and you will be, very much in this proactive field. But the thing is, nobody really knows what's going to be happening there. And when I say no one, I really mean no one. For example, Cisco is holding a big event in Spain in October. I was at the kickoff meeting in Santa Clara with I'm part of the steering committee of their sort of new way of looking at things, and they're selling their hardware. Now they're selling their hardware because they know that there's not money enough in hardware in the coming years to sustain their business. So they're moving all their data, all their information, their entire operation into output-based business models. A little bit like we've been hearing, and that's also the strength of what we're doing here with Senzations, bringing all these different types of intelligences together. But we're not there yet, because nobody knows what it's going to look like. But what they know is that these big guys will not be around for another 5 to 10 years. Because these are dinosaurs, they're going to break like the Russian railways. And they know it. Then, on the ground, we have this huge amount of open source hardware, software, cheap data analytics, cheap data storage, people on Kickstarter starting up every day with hardware projects. And there, our issue is always, does it scale? Can it scale? And we're in this sort of mid sort of way of thinking between, we have to buy into these big corporate solutions, which of course is happening all over Central Europe and all over the world basically. IBM Cisco comes in offering a dashboard to the mayor, and Rio takes it. IBM Cisco is also coming into this region, sort of trying to get to the top sort of policy people and trying to sell their stuff. And once you buy that, you'll be buying that for like 20, 30 years, because you will never get the raw data out of their formats again. So this is all sort of happening as we speak, and they have a big plus, and their big plus is always, we can make it run, we can make it work, we can make it scale. And if you're small, if we have to do it with your own sort of stuff, you cannot make it scale, so we have an edge to you. But I think there's going to be different, but the difference is really up to you. So we're here, and today we'll talk a lot about the position where we are. So George is going to talk about privacy impact assessment, which is a legal framework for anybody who wants to do anything with RFID with a new sort of application. So that's really important, and it ties together the technology and the legal issues and the business and the societal context. And myself, I'm sort of very much in here. I try to be in this proactive field. To me, the thing is very simple. It's a seamless flow between the body area network, where you get data from the body, the local area network, where you get data from the home, the wide area network, where you get data from the car, the mobility, and the very wide area network, which is the e-government, which is the city as service. So now you still go to a particular location, particular building to get your passport. There's basically no need. You can print that passport at the supermarket. The supermarket has a dedicated slot. So that's the sort of line that we have to secure. Of Of course, it's being secured already by Apple, by Google. I mean, the Google Glasses is about augmented reality, but it's not that much about augmented reality. It's about getting a hub, getting a gateway to the body. Because all the data coming from your body will go to the Google Glass. You will go home and sync those data in the Google Power Meter. Then you go to your car, and either it's going to be a Google car, or Google will have a line in all cars throughout automotive. And so you will sync your data coming from your Google, from your body, Google Glasses, and your home, Google Power Meter, into your Google car. And of course, Eric Schmidt is talking constantly with the American government and with the cities, because we don't have to reckon with the American government when it comes to Internet of Things, because they have no clout. It's the cities that run things in the States. So they're constantly talking to the cities, trying to get all the data open to such an extent that it can work with their formats. So that's why we have this fight on the level of the city. Once you get your hands on the city, you can work backwards to mobility, to the home, to the local area network, and to the body. So what we're trying to do is sort of securing that line too, but making it open, and making it open source, and making it public. Because at the moment, we are still, and that's what we are used to do, we are still thinking just in three terms. We think in terms of we build frameworks, industry, end users, and government. But the trick is, there's new entities coming, and these new entities are born from all the connectivity that is generated by all the data flows of all the different sensors. And it's these new entities that will determine new business models. So if you look at the old entities that are running now, you will not go far. You will stay in the directed framework, and you can work a little bit here, but you will break. So the people that are actually thinking about Internet of Things at the moment that will be having an edge are people that are already thinking about an Internet of Things that's working. So that is a fully traceable situation in which everything is monitored. And this is very, very serious implications. It's very disruptive. There's no more money in such a scenario. There's no need to have one currency. We can have Bitcoin, we can have free coin, we can have bartering. You can have 12, 13, 15 different currencies in that system. It's very disruptive, and really big companies and the governments do not really like it, because it's going to take out 80% of all their value, because this is not going to be ported into this new reality. So what it really means is that what we are building is a kind of fully transparent situation. And if you say this to CEOs, they don't really like it, because their entire operation is built on isolation of data, hiding processes, and making sure that not everybody gets to see what they get. They have a need-to-know basis. Also, governments don't really like it, as we see in the latest way in which they're treating WikiLeaks, Anonymous, and the entire all these groups that are trying to work for more transparency. So, do not think it's just a simple technical operation. It's a huge change in society and in business. Just yesterday we talked about ethics. I built this site for IoTi last year, basically focusing on the 4 things that I think are key to Internet of Things, which is invisibility. It's invisible, so you walk around, your phone is doing things, but you don't even know what your phone is doing because you don't know what you're interacting with. So invisibility is a problem. Design and feedback can be a solution. So I'm totally always focused on the solutions. I'm very, very positive. I want Internet of Things. I want that flow. That flow is going to give me the best feedback on my mental and physical health. It's going to give me the best deals that I want to do whenever I want to buy something, because all the data will be open and out there. And it's going to take a lot of legacy and violence and a lot of overhead that we see now in the projects that we have to work in, or in the systemic failures of governments and in the systemic failures of our systems. So I'm very happy with all this. Let it come. Let's build it. The second thing is inevitability, and that's something that people still want to think about. So when I first heard about all this, and then that was like in 2000, realizing, of course, that this is really new. We have pervasive computing, ubiquitous computing, we have ambient intelligence. We have a mindset of cybernetics from the 50s that's already sort of doing what we are thinking that we're doing now. Internet of Things is just a winning term. And also this winning term is very political. The European Union had to push really, really hard to get Internet of Things accepted as a kind of winning term. And sort of, it now looks like sort of it has won. People are trying to push for, of course, industrial internet. General Electric is trying to do that. Cisco is trying to push their Internet of Everything. But these are sort of advertisements of slides. They're not going to get the Internet of Things out of the way. But it's nothing new. There's this whole notion of individuating objects and trying to find a way to address every object in a digital way is something that was built a long time ago. But when I first heard about it, I got very scared because I was thinking, well, with these current stakeholders, with the companies that I know that are not doing the best things possible, I would say, for people or for the environment, just ruining the planet and creating huge climate change. And with these governments that I don't really trust in sort of having the best, my best interests at heart, you know, if I see what's coming out of all their formats in which they are hiding things sort of all the time, offering them these tools is going to make them so powerful. It's the matrix. And I don't want to live in that matrix. I want to be out. So for a while I thought, okay, let's assume that we can get out of there. But that of course means being a bit Luddite. So can we still escape? So of course we can hack RFID, we can put it in we can fry it, we can put lots of stuff on it, and sort of it's doable. But once we have RFID on all our objects that we buy all the time, it's very difficult to blow them all out. And it's very tedious also to hack your RFID every morning, so you're not going to do it. But then we also get IP46, and IP46 will be in everything that we have with a little bit of software in our homes. So my toothbrush will have IP46. So can I sort of not interface, can I not engage with IP46? That's going to be very difficult. I can get offline. I have friends that go offline and they build their own mesh networks, and there are parts of Europe where there's very, very little, just good food. They can have their own do their local farming, and they're really getting away from the cities because I think cities will be in a lot of problems in a few years or maybe a few decades. But do I want that? So I had to sort of think about that, and no, I didn't really sort of want to do that. But we did realize, that's where we built our first network, which is basically a very critical network. It's a hacker network. It's basically a lot of open source hardware people, philosophers, critical people, Bricolabs, and we have a mailing list. We put you on it. It's very much like a family chatter mailing list, so don't expect any links. Nobody's allowed to send sort of go to this conference or go to that conference. It's just sort of chatter, but it's very good. And then I wrote this text in 2007 or 2008, 2006, 2007, Internet of Things. And that was basically my answer to the whole debate, saying, look, there's something coming, I don't like it. I don't like the timing. I would have loved the timing when we had this kind of connectivity in the 60s, everybody running around with flowers in their hair and dancing and love sort of being the main driver, and say, yes, I connect everything. But now, with the things that we have, and all these governments pushing fear and all these stupid wars all around, I don't think this is something that we need now. So we really have to be careful what we're building. But I ended the text very openly. So my basically first idea about the text, the end of the text was, we're fucked. and then the friend I was writing it with, Sean, and also publisher Geert Loving, they said, you can't do that. And it's also not really true, because there's something, and I realized it was not really true, because there is a really open, liberatory line in this Internet of Things, and that's the one that we have to grab and build, and we have the tools to do that now. So I become much more positive, but it took me about 15 years. So after I wrote this text, I got contacted by people from the Commission, by Gerald Santucci, who was then running the unit. And he invited me to moderate a business forum, which I then did. And that made me realize, okay, I can Because he understood that like in the States, where Catherine Albrecht set up spy chips and had a very critical discourse, and he sort of knew that if a lot of activists got together, they could actually influence the public debate in the public to such an extent that the public, which already at the moment does not trust big companies and does not trust these governments, would really not trust like a lot of spy chips buried in their food and in their clothes and in their home. So he was very clever. So he brought in me and sort of all these activists and said, okay, let's create a kind of gray zone, open zone, let's discuss. And that's what we've been doing for the past sort of 6 years. Realizing that it's going to be there, we cannot stop it, but we have to build it in the best possible open and public way. And that made me realize that I could build something else. So then I built Council. So Council is, we started in 2009 with a big evening kickoff. If you Google Internet of Things, you find Council very high, like 5 or 6 or 7 or 2 or 3. And that's exactly how I built it. So I built it with a Drupal for Google. I'm posting every day. I'm always trying to put Internet of Things in the header. It's like 150 members, and some of them are quite famous, so they have a lot of links. So this all helps to get up in sort of like in Google, because I wanted to be there when somebody Googled the Internet of Things. I wanted them to find Council, because what I post on Council is something for the engineers, something for the designers, something for the artists, and sort of something for people that are interested in society and no business. So you always get a very diverse view. You don't just get one particular side. And the beauty of this, of course, is that we can do this now with the URL. There's no organization behind it. It's just a URL. And also the Internet of Things was .au was still free. So I was actually in 2009 trying to get total connectivity, and then my girlfriend said, "Have you checked the Internet of Things.au?" And I said, "Well, it can't be that stupid. So to not have registered the Internet of Things.au." But they were. So I grabbed it, and now for the past 4 years, people think I'm an official European outfit or something. I get input in the European Parliament for the Internet of Things directive, sort of the paper that they made, and I realized, as I was talking to the European politician, that the researcher that had done the research, after I told my story, that it's just me and a few friends building these things, which is what we can do now with the web and with the internet, taking advantage of all the things that we can do for free, or for basically the cost of the URL, was really doubled up, because he thought sort of that this was like an official sort of unit, and a lot of people still do, which is fine. Now, if you want to be a member, please send me a bio and a picture, and you're a member. We have a mailing list. It's all free, and it's just a huge repository of trying to sort of get things done. We do a lot of events, and then we partner with events. And there's no money involved, so we just swap the logos. So this is the event in Washington in October, and so I gave input for the program together with Forum Europe, because Forum Europe, Brussels, we've been working with them for the past 4 years. Now they go to Washington, and I really love to see the council logo sort of next to AT&T and Qualcomm and Sprint, sort of thinking how much they had to pay in order to get up there, right? Sort of probably a lot of money, and I'm just there because I use what is out there now very well. First of all, of course, the whole network that makes this possible. So if you have an event, if you want to do a seminar anywhere, because I'm also a consultant for IoT China in Shanghai for the past 2 years, and going to be again for 2014. If you want to do a seminar somewhere, Indonesia, Brazil, Russia, Shanghai, whatever, it doesn't matter, because we are basically everywhere. I'm also stakeholder coordinator for IoTA, and as I was brought in a bit later in the project, so IoTA is the biggest IP that there is on for Internet of Things in Europe at the moment. It has like 17 partners. There's like SAP, Siemens, it's got all the big integrators, Hitachi's there. And what it attempted to do, basically in the view of Sebastian Lange, who was then still there, and Alessandro Bassi, who was the technical coordinator, is that they conceived of this project as a kind of TCP IP for the Internet of Things, because they realized that this Internet of Things will be an intranet of things. If this current situation of intellectual property, a lot of corporate violence, a lot of stupid legacy in the systems, if this continues, we will not have an Internet of Things. We will just have intranets of things in private networks. And you will be building intranets for big companies or intranets for cities or private networks, and you will have fun, but it will not be an Internet of Things. An Internet of Things will only get in this kind of in this environment, this break environment, when a lot of things break here, and a lot of things will break here. But then the question is, of course, can there be building blocks here? Can there be people ready to move in when things start breaking here and actually build the kind of TCP IP? Now, this is nearly impossible because I think we know that the internet was a total fluke, and if people in charge would have realized what we simple people, end users, are now doing with it, like setting up things like council, and I'm just one person, it's like hundreds of people like me, thousands of people like me setting up these things, and then going through hierarchies like this instead of like this, because we just come with content. And the system cannot take that, of course. It's really up to breaking point, because it cannot deal with these situations, and it cannot deal with these people. Of course, it brings them into the projects, and I'm happy to be in the project. But in the end, we know that the way that these projects are being set up, they're too slow, they're not agile, they're not dynamic, and they're not tuned to what is really going on the ground. They may be, and they can, and we're very lucky to have Alex Durak writing good proposals and coordinating new projects in which we're trying to be this dynamic and be this agile and actually be relevant and actually offer services that people will want from our point of view with our formats. But that's all happening now. That's again why I said you're very lucky, because you enter in a very good moment, and you really must have big dreams, only very big dreams and very big aspirations, because the field is wide open. And if you don't set up Internet of Things, Serbia, Montenegro, wherever you come from, other people are going to do it, and they just have enough. They just have even less skills and expertise than you. So it was not think small. It was really think big. It's not always the case, but now it is definitely the case. So in IOTA, they brought me basically in for a stakeholder coordinator. So it's my job to interface to the stakeholders in the project. They had a stakeholder group very early in the project, and this was really good, and it worked. And also to reach out because a lot of the trouble with European projects is that they don't reach out and they don't disseminate beyond their own terrain. Very few people out there know about these things. So when I was in the 90s, there was a fantastic program called iCube, Intelligent Information Interfaces. And this is a Philips table in the 90s, like 96, 97, coming from that project. And what that project did, so Intelligent Information Interfaces, is that it put together researchers, real-world situations, and artists and designers. And they did this in 1996. It was one of the best projects I've ever seen. This then turned out later into the disappearing computer. There's a lot of stuff on this disappearing computer still online if you want to see it. There's also a lot of iCube magazines still online. Not in one repository, you really have to sort of find them, but you can if you sort of do that. And then it turned into a project called Convivio, which was like designers and artists, and that sort of failed. And then, unfortunately, what happened, and this is really bad, in sort of like 2000, 2002, in Europe, the whole design, artist, and interaction group went one way, and the other way, the technical guys went into situated and autonomous computing. So it was really bad. It was the baddest moment, sort of the worst moment you could actually think about of getting these two groups apart, because they were so well together in the 90s. So they built this table, which is an RFID enabled table. You can put tokens on it. They put that in a neighborhood, And if you lost your cat, you put your RFID-enabled token on the table, and it was ported to the bus stop screen, right? It was brilliant. And if somebody, an old lady, five floors up high, that sort of wanted a loaf of bread, she could say loaf of bread, and then you could put a loaf of bread on the bus stop, and you could bring her some of the bread. So we could have introduced RFID in a community-enabled way in the 90s, and we would have gone. We would not have this privacy debate that we're going to have now, and that George is going to inform us all about. We would not have all this complete sort of obsessive-compulsive security around sort of stuff like that, as if we have to secure all these digital copies of all this information all the time like crazy, as if it's all state secrets, and even if there were state secrets, it's not really necessary. So we have to sort of go back a little bit to these older projects. So if you want, I can give you all these sort of pictures. And even the hardest thing and the worst thing actually of it all is that Time magazine issued a paper in 2000 writing about the fantastic smart gadget stuff coming out of Europe. We don't know our own history in this, and it's very, very sad, because we think that it's all coming from like these two MIT guys that then even also flunked MIT Dublin later on. But it's not. Sort of this is really a really good European tradition of putting together teams with technical content, interaction design, and a social, really social point of view. So it's been done. We did it. Now with this, I go to the thing I want to show for. So we have stakeholder workshops. We did one in Bled. That was last year, and there was people from Philips and well, basically sort of and Kronenburg, lots of companies, Stefan Schweber from Bosch could not make this one, but he was at the other ones. And just one aside, sort of, there's something going on that's very interesting in Europe with a few companies like Bosch. They're doing amazingly well in IoT, and also Kronenburg. And it turns out that these are privately held, foundation-based companies. So Bosch is a 300,000 people company, but it's not on the market. And it is still held like 5% by the family and the rest by the foundation. Kronenburg, one of the big machine builders in Denmark that builds pumps. So they have 10% of all the pumps in the world, and pumps consume 10% of all the energy in the world. So imagine what you can do if you can get it, if they can get it down their energy level by 1%, you can actually get the energy level of the whole world down with 0.01. It's amazing. And they're also privately held. And so the interesting thing is that for the business developers from Kronenburg and from Bosch, Stefan Ferber and Rasmus Blom, they are the most savvy and the most far out. And I think it's because they and their board are able to take a long-term view. So they don't have to think in these 3-month, 4-month cycles. So I think what we are doing and what's happening is that trying to find sort of these companies, because they really work well with the things that we want to do. So we had a lot of discussion and debate about really strong issues about Internet of Things, which is basically introducing new devices to an existing environment. So you have an environment, somebody walks in, what happens with that device? How can we sort of bring that in? And then we did, basically Georgia did, and he's going to talk about it now. We did the PIA, the Privacy Impact Assessment exercise. And it was very good that we did it, because normally business developers at the outer end, or marketing people, or people in the company that are not really talking to the technology group all the time, they find these things very tedious, and they don't want to do it. So the industry did a lot of resented all these things coming from legislation about doing a privacy impact assessment for RFID. A lot, they fought it. And they actually killed the Internet of Things expert group, which I was part of here in Europe, that wanted to go to some kind of IoT internet sort of a privacy sort of impact assessment, and industry sort of really stopped that because they didn't want to have any kind of interference on that level of where they want to introduce new projects and new ideas and new services. But we know, of course, that any object that you introduce now with any kind of monitoring equipment is going to influence other monitoring equipped sort of situations. So you can never say, when I introduce this service, the interaction will stay confined to this sort of range. No, there's always going to be an enormous amount of interfering with, because we're going to make the entire situation. We're going to make homes sort of smart, roads smart. Sort of, it's going to be an entirely smart world. So in that world, in this world, this proactive world, there will be no more privacy. We're going to be very, very open about that. So there will be privacies, or maybe levels of privacies, up at most. But the whole notion of privacy is something that will be sort of taken apart and spread over the infrastructure, the service, a product, me as a whole sort of as a walking service or something. So these notions like privacy and also security, they will be spread out over the entire situation. But we're not there yet. And as we're not there yet, we have to negotiate sort of this move. And we cannot negotiate this move if we don't, if we're not very serious about the tools that we have now. And what turned out, and maybe I'm saying already too much, I'm sorry, so what turned out is that this whole group of business developers that at first thought, what are we going to do, a privacy impact assessment, at the end, we're very, very happy to have done it, because it turned out that they thought that if they would do this immediately with their entire technical and design team when they were thinking about the service, that they would get a better service or a better product. I hope I didn't take away your line now, but so maybe you want to talk about it, George?
Are you finished? Or,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want, so I'm going to be here for the next day. So just talk to me if you want. And we've got a lot of projects, a lot of people, a lot of possibilities for events and seminars, and lots of possibilities also for building these sites. So I encourage you to register the domain name Internet of Things or the Internet of Things of your country immediately if you have not done already, and set up something like this. Friends of us have the Internet of Things.ru, Russia. Friends of us also have it's the Internet of Things.ru. Yeah, it's
not there. Just remove there.
It's a good press.
There. Just remove there. The beginning.
Okay, they got internet probably then.
Yes.
Yes. With me talking, which is very good. But you see, they have council. So council is a friend because they're friends of us, and Alexa has got Belarusia. So that's also very good. Oh yeah, one more thing, sorry Georgia, because I forgot, and then I will stop, is that we set up a company in London which is called the Internet of People. It's very recent, we just did it last month or something, and so we take all the people in council are the first people that sort of work there, and we start to offer services like strategic support or industry reports or future casting or execute presentations, setting up seminars like what is Internet of Things and what is it to you, and sort of one-day presentations. we're building a kind of methodology to go into a company in one day and talk to all the layers and all the people in all the layers and offer them some Internet of Things classes and say, okay, this is you now and this will be you after Internet of Things, after all this connectivity has hit all your verticals. So here are the problems that we can envisage that will happen now, and if you want us to help with that, then we can have people that sort of would like to help with that. Again, setting up a company in London is very easy. It just takes £250, and the most important trouble is the bank account. So you gotta get a lot of stuff for the bank account. Once you get that, you're set. And a lot of people are setting up companies in London. A lot of French people are doing this. We have Spanish people also, because it's very difficult to to do this. And the time is now. So it's really now to do it. Again, nobody has a clue about what's going on in this proactive space. So not even the Cisco people, because they have no clue. They're coming to us. They're coming to the so-called visionaries or the designers or the small people working sort of on the ground. They know that they are too slow. Also, these big companies, like the Siemenses of this world and all that. I mean, everybody is feeling that they are a little bit sort of in trouble. So nobody has more information than you. Actually, you have more information. So the idea is really to team up, and that's also the good thing about the Senzations, bringing business people, technical people, and people who are interested in societal issues, of course. And you need politicians, like political people, people in the council, people, and especially here, people in the council, people in political parties. Bring them together and start as the consultancy for the Internet of Things in your region. And even if you don't really know what you're going to do, nobody knows. But one thing is very sure, that if you don't do it, the old sort of actors like the KPGMs and sort of all these big, the McKinseys of this world, they're already doing it. They're already buying expertise. They're buying people. For example, also Sebastian Langer, the coordinator of IoTA, is now at Deloitte & Touche. So Deloitte & Touche is investing in Internet of Things sort of people. They will make their reports, and they have a kind of asset because people trust them in doing that. But they won't have that. They will not have that edge if we don't give that to them. So this is really a time to start up and take yourself very seriously in doing that. And if you don't have the skills to do that, then this is really the group with which this can be put together. Okay, thank you. George, can you please...